Hey, John Sonmez from SimpleProgrammer.com. So before I get into this video, I just want to say this is a controversial topic. I expect some hate from this. I expect some people to get all upset and not agree with me, but that's fine. That's totally fine, right? You express your opinion if you like on this, but I'm going to tell you why I don't have life insurance. That's not to say that you shouldn't have life insurance, but I'm going to tell you why I don't, right? If you agree with me, fine. If you disagree with me and you want to get life insurance, hey, fine. It's not a big deal. But I'm going to tell you why, because this has come up a lot of times now. A lot of people think that, oh, well, John, why don't you have life insurance? That seems really stupid. Life insurance is this basic thing. Don't you care about your family? Don't you care about what's going to happen if something happens to you? And my big answer to this, it starts at a philosophical level, right? Which is basically uh, life insurance is just like any other form of insurance, which is it's a gamble, right? It's a bet. And when you buy insurance, you're betting on the wrong side of the table, and you know it, right? Right, because the insurance company is the house, right? And they are making a good bet. Obviously, they pay out less in life insurance claims than they take in from people paying into life insurance. So if you're a familiar poker player or a gambler, then you probably are familiar with the concept of EV, or expected value. So anytime you buy insurance, it's a negative EV play. Your expected value is less, unless you are somehow cheating the system, or you've incorrectly filled out your health insurance questionnaire, right? You're lying or something like that. Almost in all cases, unless there's some kind of subsidy or something happening that's going to change the EV, the cards are stacked in favor of the person that is issuing the policy, right? But that doesn't mean that all insurance is bad. It just means that it's a bad bet. Now, I have insurance on my houses because right now I think that the chance of a catastrophic failure versus the small cost that I pay, that ratio is the peace of mind is worth it for me. I know financially in the long run, I would make out better by not having the insurance on my houses, the ones that are paid off at least, because I know that the odds say that you'll make more money. Now, the same occurs with life insurance, right? And so, and the same thing with medical insurance, right? I have health insurance, same reason, right? Overall, I know that paying a couple $100s I pay for health insurance. I do have a high deductible plan. I'm using it just for essentially emergencies. But I know that even that small amount that I'm paying per month, that over my lifetime would probably be more than, especially if you consider interest and compounded interest, right? It'd probably be more than what I'll ever get from the health insurance payout. But in the chance that something drastic does happen that's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, or possibly $1 million, right? I don't have that kind of money, and so it's worth the peace of mind for me, even though I'm betting, I'm betting against the house essentially. So now we get to the actual thing I'm talking about, which is life insurance. So why don't I have life insurance? Well, simply put this way, I know that at this point I have enough assets secured. I have a lot of rental properties, and I have passive income that comes from those. My wife manages those properties, or she, has a huge involvement in those properties. She understands how to operate them, and we've got management companies in place. If something were to happen to me, those assets would be taken care of, and they would generate enough income for her to live, and that would be fine. Doesn't She doesn't rely totally on my income. Also, if something happened to both me and my wife, right, we have someone who will take care of those assets and make sure that my daughter is taken care of as well. So that sort of puts the risk bucket for me as far as like catastrophic worst case scenario of why I would have that insurance. It sort of mitigates that. Yes, would things be in a better financial condition for my wife or daughter if something happened to me and I did have life insurance? Sure, it would be, but the odds say that it's a bad bet, and when the odds say it's a bad bet, and I can live with the actually I can't live with now at this point I could live with the outcome, right, of that, of kind of the worst case scenario. Then that's when I don't buy insurance, right? So that's sort of, my guideline here. It's funny, and we're talking about life insurance, and I say live, but basically that's what it comes down to. And if you look at it for the long term, right? I've never had life insurance. The amount of money that I've saved on not having life insurance and invested into real estate has basically, paid out what a life insurance policy would pay out. When you look at compounding interest, if you're investing well, if you have good investments, for me, being able to pull in 10% or more returns on real estate, with what money I invest there, makes it make a lot more sense for me to put that in and to gamble a little bit on that side when I'm younger than it does to have a life insurance policy. Now, again, like I said, that's not everyone's situation. I personally think that if you can manage to figure out a way to make it so that your living expenses are low enough so that you generate some amount of passive income or some assets that generate income that your family would be able to be okay with you being gone. If you can sort of ride that wave out for long enough that you're saving enough money on those premiums on the life insurance and investing that money to you kind of hit this point where you've made it, right? And this is with any insurance, right? If I stop paying medical insurance, right? I drop my medical insurance. It might take me like 10 years, but if I saved up all those premiums over time and I was investing that money, I could probably have a nice big nest egg where it would basically be my own insurance and I'd be free, right? I'd have made the right choice. So you kind of have to ride out the period. Anytime you choose to not have insurance, you have to, it's the same thing could happen with properties, right? With your home insurance, right? At some point you could save enough money on premiums and the interest you'd gain and the compounding interest that you'd have more than the replacement cost of the property, and everything else is gravy from there on. It might take like 25 years to do that with a property, though. There's different places where you can calculate the return. I've done this on cars, on a vehicle. If I didn't have a good driving record, if my insurance costs were high on a car, I would just basically I would keep the liability, but I would drop the comprehensive and collision insurance, because I would know that I'm going to get in that free zone much quicker. So there's different points here, right? This isn't a simple thing. It's not a straightforward thing here. To say, oh, you should always have life insurance, or you shouldn't ever have life insurance, right? I don't think that you can really, make it an absolute. But there's certain risks, right? It depends on your situation, depends on what your risk tolerance is. It depends on what what your expenses are, even. What does it cost for your family to live, and what are you willing to sleep with at night? What is the risk that you're willing to be okay with, worst case scenario. Like I said, in my situation, worst case scenario doesn't look all that bad. If something happens to me and my family is left with with what they have. Now, part of that is because I've saved all this money from the premiums, because I've done well in other areas, and so and we're used to living below our means. If you're living at way above your means or at your means, then you might need the life insurance policy to ensure that your family still lives at that level. But because we've been living below our means, it doesn't require much for my family to be in the same situation they are now without me. That sounds a little bit weird, but anyway, I thought I would just give an explanation, because I get asked this a lot. Again, there could be some flaw in my thinking. I'm open to that, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. I've run a lot of scenarios, and for me, this seems like the right choice. Again, not trying to push this on everyone and say, oh, you have to drop your life insurance, or it's a waste. But I am gonna, I will say a few things firmly, which is that anytime you're buying insurance, you're making a bad bet. You just know that. I buy insurance. I do have, like I said, medical and home insurance and insurance on my car, and I realize I'm making a bad bet, but I'm not willing to risk the worst case scenario in those situations, so I'm hedging my bet essentially. That insurance is a hedge. So that's that I will stand firm on, and you can argue that all you want, but it's the same reason why I don't buy extended warranties. Anytime that someone's offering you a deal like that, it's going to be in their advantage. It's just a matter of, is it worth paying for the cost of hedging your bet. All right, well, that's long enough about life insurance. Hopefully this is helpful. I'm curious to see what the comments are. I know there's going to be some hate written there, but hey, you know what? It's okay. Take care, and I will talk to you next time.